Hi friends, it's Mr. Alex from Adams Memorial Library, and it's time for another great seasonal craft. Now, February is the month of Valentine's Day, and I love sending cards, so I thought we would make not one, not two, but 3 different Valentine's Day cards. You'll definitely want to stop right here at the library, either at our children's desk or curbside pickup, to get your take-home craft kit. Now, I'll be sure to show you how each of these cards are made, so let's gather our supplies and we'll get started. In order to make our stitched heart card, we're going to need just a few things. First, you'll need this template with each of the dots marked on it that came with your kit. We'll need a yarn needle that looks like this, as well as a thumbtack to punch out the holes in the pattern. Now, in your kit, these should be taped to a piece of cardboard that is the backing for the needles here. So if you don't see that in your kit, make sure you're extra careful and take a moment to locate it, because we definitely don't want anyone getting poked by the needle or the thumbtack. Then we're also going to need some yarn, and we've provided this sort of glittery magenta yarn for you to use, but you can use any color that you like. So if you have other yarn at home and maybe you want a different color heart, you can definitely switch it out. I will say that we've included 2 yards of yarn, and I think that's a good amount. You'll need at least 1 yard, if not more, depending on how you do your pattern. So we need our yarn. We need scissors to cut our yarn if needed, and also to cut out our card. And then finally, markers, crayons, or anything else that we want to use to embellish and decorate our card. So if you've got all of this, then we will get started. The first thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to cut out our card and the template from the piece of cardstock. This way, it'll be a little bit easier to work with as we are adding our yarn. Another thing that you may have noticed is that this card is actually going to fold backward compared to a normal card, since the heart is on this side of the cardstock. But once we've got it cut out, then it's time to punch the holes in our card. And what you don't want to do is take your thumbtack and just punch the holes like this right on the table. If you do that, you're going to wind up taking your thumbtack and pressing it into the table, and that's not good. We definitely don't want to mark up your work surface. So in order to fix that, what we're going to do is one of 2 things. You can either get a piece of cardboard and lay it underneath, and then your thumbtack will just punch right into the cardboard. Or what I like to do, if you don't have any cardboard laying around at home, is you can have your cardstock hanging off the edge of the table and then hold it firm, making sure to keep your fingers out of the way, and then just punch through like that off of the edge of the table. So that way, this bit poking through the back isn't poking you, and it's not poking into your work surface either. So let's go ahead and punch all of these holes so that they're ready to start sewing. And once we're done, we should be able to hold our card up to the light. And as you can see, we have all of our holes punched. We'll take our thumbtack and we'll put it somewhere safe so that it's not going to poke us as we continue to work on our project. And then the next thing that we want to do is start our yarn. We're going to want to tie a knot, and I actually double my knot for this project. But if we just tie a simple overhand knot into the back end of our yarn and double it up, we'll something that looks like this. And that's going to be the tail end of our project. So then we're going to want to get to the front of our yarn, and we're going to feed that through the eye of the needle. And this can take some practice, so be patient. You may want to work the end of your yarn a little bit to compress the fibers and be able to get them through the eye of the needle more easily. But once we have it through, we're just going to give it a tug and form a nice little tail like this. At this point, we have quite a lot to work with because we do have 2 yards of yarn. So we are going to take our needle and start at the bottom here. And then we're just going to pull up through the bottom of the card like this and pull all of our yarn through until the knot's at the end. And we want to sort of tug on it to make sure that it's not going to pull through the card. Once that's secure, we're going to start sewing our stitches into the heart. So the best way to do this, if you want a solid line, like what I have here, is that we are going to take and stitch from this hole here, and then we're going to go down like this into this pre-punched hole here. And we'll pull that through. Now, the issue that you're going to run into is that if we simply come from the bottom of our project, if we approach from the bottom of it and come up through this third hole here, what's going to happen is that, as you can see, it's going to skip over this space in between. So what we want to do is we're simply going to come up through that hole, pull our project tight, and then we're going to go back down the second hole that we came out of with our needle like this. And that's going to complete the line and fill in the space in between. Just like that. Then we can advance to our next hole. So if you want your line to be solid, you're just going to need to double back like that for the entire project. So again, we'll go up through this hole, pull all of our yarn through, and then come back down the previous hole. Oop. And just like that, if our needle comes undone, that's fine. We can just re-feed it through and continue our process like we were. So we'll pull that through and have something that looks like this. So at this point, we're going to continue the whole way around our heart. And once we've sewn the whole way around our heart and made all of our stitches with our needle and yarn, it should look something like this. Important note, as you probably saw in the video, there were a couple of times where my yarn got tangled, or I had to rethread my needle, or it got caught on something on my table, and that's okay. It is a really long process to stitch all of this out. So if you get frustrated, it's more than okay to take a break or just sort of work through your yarn and figure out what exactly you need to fix. But the front of our project should look like this, and the back, which is going to be really important for the next step, should look something like this. So we have the front of our card done, and we have a couple of options. The first thing that you can do is, if you want to add additional stitches, you can start connecting the different holes that we've punched in our card. So for instance, you could connect the holes here and here and make lines going this way on our heart. We could connect them diagonally and make like a spider web effect, or anything that you want really. You can just go ahead and experiment with that, but I like mine just like this, with only the outline. So if we're ready to finish off our heart, then all we're going to do is flip over to the back, and if you've done it correctly, it should look something like this. And you should also have these little stitches here where we doubled back. And to finish our project, since it's not a very complicated stitch, we're just going to run the thread or our yarn under the stitches that we made. And we'll have to rethread our needle there. That's okay. And we're just going to run our yarn under each of those stitches, and that's going to make sure that our project is secure. So we'll go ahead and do that now. And once we've done that, at least halfway around our heart, then if you have any leftover yarn, we can just go ahead and trim that off and set the remaining yarn, our needle and our thumbtack, aside, because we're done with those. So at this point, we have our heart on the front and it's pretty secure on the back. So we're just going to fold our card in half along this center line that's pre-printed on the template. And this may be a little difficult with all the yarn, but we'll give it a nice sharp crease. And we have a card that looks like this. Now, at this point, we can open it up. And like I said, it will be a little bit backwards compared to what we're used to, but that's okay. It just makes it extra unique. And we can take our markers, crayons, and other decorating supplies. We can decorate the front of our card if you'd like, or what I'm going to do is just write a message inside. So inside mine, I'm going to write Happy Valentine's Day. And once I've done that, it's going to be all ready to give as a great Valentine's Day surprise. Now that we've successfully stitched our heart card, we are going to move on to the bee card. And in order to make this paper bee card, we're going to need a few things from our kit, as well as a few things from home. You should have a circle template on yellow paper. You should have 2 heart templates on white cardstock. You'll need a scrap of black paper, a scrap of red paper, your scissors and glue, and then from home, you'll want to get a photo of yourself, and probably what you'll want to do is make a copy of this photo. For instance, I printed this out from online. I did not take something out of the family photo album because we are going to cut this up. Then you're also going to want your markers, your crayons, and other supplies to decorate with. So the first step in making our bee card is that we are going to cut out our circle template and our hearts. So let's set everything else aside, and we'll do that now. Once we have those cut out, we'll want to get our black sheet of paper, or our scrap of paper here, and we're going to want to make some stripes for our bee. I recommend making about 3. So in order to do that, we're just going to take our scissors and we're going to cut 3 strips of paper like this. And now these strips of paper are going to be longer than our circles. So what I recommend doing is actually just taking your glue, gluing these down wherever you want them on your bee, and then taking your scissors and trimming off the rest. So for instance, I can glue this piece right here like this on the center, and then I'll put some glue here and some glue here to add my other pieces. One here and one here. At this point, we have something that looks like this, and we're just going to take our scissors and trim off all those extra pieces around the side of our project, like this. Take all these scraps, set them off to the side, because we will need the rest of our black paper here in a moment. Up next, we want to take our red scrap of paper, and we are going to create the heart on the bee's chest. So we're just going to fold it in half like this. Again, you don't want to fold the whole piece in half because we're going to need to make some additional parts out of our red scrap of paper. But if you fold the end of it in half like this, you can use this guideline here and just cut half of a heart shape, something that maybe looks like this. And then when we open it up, we'll have a heart. And we can sort of doctor that up once we've finished cutting as well. So when we have a heart that we're happy with, we're just going to take and glue that right onto our bee's chest. Like this. Then we're going to want to add our photo. So we're going to take the photo and we're just going to cut out the photo right around our face. And you can leave a bit of a border. I actually recommend doing so. But we're going to cut around the edges so that we have something that looks a little bit like this. Then we can glue our face onto the bee, just like this. So we'll add a little bit of glue and glue that on as well. Next, we're going to need to make our antenna. So we're going to get our black and red scraps of paper back, and we're just going to cut 2 little strips that look like antenna. Now, you will want to leave them a decent length because, for instance, if I cut this in half now to make my second, I may not have enough space to glue the hearts on top or to the back of my photo, and we definitely don't want that. So we're just going to cut 2 longer pieces, and we can trim those up as needed. On top of the antenna, we're going to have 2 hearts. So we'll take our red scrap of paper again and just fold it in half like this. So we're folding our tab and then folding in half this way. And by doing that and cutting, again, our half of a heart shape, we're going to have two identical paper hearts that look like this. And we'll take our glue stick and glue those right on top of the antenna that we've cut out. And at this point, once our antennae are attached, then it is a-okay to take our scissors and we're going to trim the bottom of our antenna off so that they're shorter. Or if you are worried about doing that, you can just glue the whole thing on. That's fine too. But we'll trim our antenna down to size and glue those onto the back of our photo sticking out of the back of the head. So we'll do something like that, something like this. And while we have our project flipped over onto the back, we're going to want to take the two hearts that are going to be our wings and glue those with the points in onto the back as well. So we'll add a little bit of glue and attach the bee's wings. Just like that. And now we have one stylish Valentine bee. Oh, glued one of the antenna on backwards. So we'll just remove that and re-glue it facing the correct way. And just like that, now our bee is really looking stylish. So at this point, we can take our markers, crayons, and other decorating supplies, and we can decorate our bee. For instance, we could write B, B-E-E, mine, for a bit of a Valentine pun, or you can write anything else that you'd like. Something else that I like to do in order to make our decorations really pop is I took my Sharpie marker and I outlined the edges of my project, and that really makes it stand out more. The other thing that I've done, and you can do too, is in your craft kit, there are additional pieces of cardstock that are blank. So you could fold those in half as a card and glue your project onto the card to make it a little more sturdy. Or if you don't want to do that, if you like your bee just as is, then you can flip it over to the back and write your Valentine message on the wings. Either works just fine. So I've outlined mine, I've decorated it, I've glued it to the card, and I wrote a special Valentine's message in. So this card is also ready to give to a friend. Now for our final card, the paper penguin card, this project is pretty much just a cut and paste from the templates in your kit. So to refresh, you're going to need the pink body, the white belly, the red heart, 2 yellow feet, a yellow beak, and 2 pink wings. I've already gone ahead and cut all of mine out, but yours should be printed onto pieces of paper and you'll need to cut them out as well. To assemble it, we're just going to take our trusty glue stick, and first we're going to add the penguin's belly. So we'll add some glue onto the back and glue that right onto the penguin's body. And throughout this project, you may just want to take your glue stick and glue down any loose edges that pop up. But now we have our penguin's belly attached. We'll attach a few other corners, just like this, and then it's time for our penguin's face. So for that, we're just going to take our beak and glue it on to this point right here in the center, so that we'll have something that looks like this. Then we're going to want to actually glue down the heart, and we want to glue it so that it's centered on our penguin's belly. If we glue down the flippers first, or the fins of our penguin, then it's going to be a little bit difficult because we won't be able to make them overlap the heart as well. So we'll glue the heart down in the center like this, and then take each of the penguin's arms and glue them so that they are touching the heart and also right along this edge here on the body, making sure to attach them properly if any part pops up. We'll add the other fin or flipper, and now we have something that looks like this. finally, we have our penguin's feet. So we're just going to glue those on like this to the bottom of our penguin. And our very adorable Valentine penguin is now complete. So, just like the B card, we have a couple of options. We can take our crayons, markers, and something else to decorate. I've chosen to outline my penguin in black marker to, again, sort of make it pop a little bit. But I also, instead of gluing it to a piece of cardstock, I decided to write the message right on the back of my penguin. So you can do that as well, or you can get the extra piece of cardstock and glue this penguin to it to make a really special Valentine's Day card. I want to thank everybody who joined me today as we made our Valentine's Day cards, and I think that they turned out pretty cool. But more importantly, I'd love to see how your cards turned out. So be sure to send a picture on over to us at kids@adamslib.org, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube for updates not only about our future crafts, but everything else happening here at the library. So as always, happy crafting, everybody.